The top 3 smart contract blockchains have almost 450 million user accounts. That is according to Coin98 Analytics anyway. You can see them here: Ethereum, BNB Chain, and Polygon. Actually, some huge growth from Near Protocol and also Cronos as well. Obviously, not many user accounts, but they've doubled the user accounts in the last month. In this video, though, I want to talk about these 3 absolute juggernauts and what they're doing to actually scale up their blockchains and introduce new applications. Because with scale comes new user applications like gaming, GameFi, and other use cases, which means more users, more transactions, and then these coins right here actually increasing in value with those transactions, essentially burning tokens. All 3 of these chains actually burn tokens with usage. So more users equals more potential for those coins over time to go up in value. Let's first then look at the state of L2 on Ethereum. It's such a massive narrative for this year. I don't see a bigger narrative in 2022 than ETH scaling. Obviously, you've got the merge, which is coming, and then the scaling that can come off the back of that. But it's happening already, and it's going to be happening over the next few years for sure. But L2 is growing, and every time I come to this chart, it's seemingly hitting a new high. So what this is value of coins now locked in Ethereum's layer 2 networks. And there's going to be a bunch of them. Arbitrum is just going from strength to strength right here, 55% of the market share. Now, Arbitrum, is an optimistic roll-up, and you have other technologies like ZK roll-ups. They're all going to play their part. But for right now, Arbitrum is actually being integrated with exchanges. So you can take your ETH and just take it straight off the exchange and never touch ETH L1. Arbitrum is, extremely secure, as much as Ethereum, more or less, and obviously lower fees. And it's being integrated into all of the top apps, Uniswap, Aave. So a ton of TVL is coming in right here. But there are many other competitors as well. These are the networks that most end users will be attracted to and use. In fact, some end users who have no real, interest in crypto are going to be using these networks and not even kind of realize that they're actually on top of Ethereum. But you can see it's pretty much green across the board right here in terms of 7-day change. TVL is going to be flooding into these coins. This is also a great chart from June Analytics that shows the amount of gas spent to settle on L2 networks on Ethereum. And you can very, very clearly see the trend right here. Pretty much all transactions are going to be moving to L2. So there's a bunch of L2 networks right here. You can see Arbitrum, you have Aztec, Diversify, Borba network. If that's Chinese, it's Borba. DYDX, which is a futures exchange, Immutable, Loopring, Optimism, all of these different layer 2 networks. If you want to really get involved with this, then obviously you just buy ETH, right? But you can take more high beta investments with some of these coins, for example, Polygon, and the others that have coins, which is not many of them right now. So what you can see is this clear trend. This is just going to be exploding. Now, with those layer 2 networks reducing fees, you have a ton more use cases, including games and just other ways to incentivize smaller amounts of money, and obviously from emerging markets into an ecosystem that can potentially be extremely large because fees are much lower. Next, I want to focus on one of those networks, which is Polygon, which is really the only tokenized version of layer 2 right now. Most don't have tokens. Polygon paint themselves out as trying to be the Amazon Web Services of the blockchain, or at least for Ethereum. So obviously they have many different technologies that could be useful for many different applications. If you want to get really regular updates about my research and some more in-depth about the technology, then obviously I have this in my crypto course. Do check it out in the description. I'll link it there. You can see the updates come regularly. This is updated free of charge for course members. So every so often I will do this update on the technology and everything that's going on with the kind of blockchain space, including all of the other videos on investing and setting up a portfolio. So I'll link that in the description if you want to check that out. But you may think Polygon, yeah, just another chain, just another small chain trying to kind of compete. And it is, but for me, it's the most diversified bet on layer 2 scaling for Ethereum. And it has, much more potential use cases than just another EVM chain, really because of the ZK rollup technologies. And I know that ZK is really the way that most of these chains will scale. Polygon really is at the forefront of this with many different ZK technologies. One of them is called Polygon Hermes, and they actually bought out this project a while back, and they are really completing it and turning it into Polygon Hermes now. So Hermes was completely separate. Now Hermes for right now isn't very useful actually. It's just a payments network where you can send coins from one account to another for very, very low cost. And it's a ZK rollup on top of Ethereum. Why that's important is because a ZK for the most part inherits the security of Ethereum. Security is very important if you're sending millions of dollars in transactions. For right now, it's not entirely useful just to send coins, but what Polygon are doing is adding in something called a ZK EVM into Polygon Hermes. And what that is essentially EVM, which is the most important thing. It's what most of these smart contracts are built on, but you take EVM in its entirety and put it into the ZK rollup. This is better for security, and of course that enables smart contracts in the rollup, which essentially means that you can have the Ethereum virtual machine in a ZK rollup. Just a lot of benefits there in terms of applications and everything within the ZK rollup, meaning very low fees. If you come up to the top right here, you can actually see wallet. You can actually link up your MetaMask wallet with your Ethereum mainnet address, and then you can use that same address with Polygon Hermes. So watch out for the mainnet launch of the ZK EVM in Hermes, because it's going to open up a whole world of possibilities with all of the top A1 applications also being extremely cheap and secure as well. You can see you can link it up with your MetaMask right here very easily. This is essentially what a ZK rollup does. You take the token transactions up here, you take a bunch of transactions, actually over 2,000, you then process them on the layer 2, and you batch them up into one single transaction and then put that down to the Ethereum layer. This ZK rollup is actually what's called a validity proof. So you prove that all of the transactions that you're putting in a block right here or in a batch are valid, and you do that with the data on Ethereum. So that's how you scale. You take 2,000, you batch them up, and you send them down in one transaction. So that is where you get the scaling on Ethereum, but having the security of Ethereum as well. These are all of the technologies that Polygon is working on, right? You have the Polygon proof of stake chain, which most of it is on right now, but you have all of these different product lines. You have the Polygon Hermes, which is going to be ZK EVM, data availability, Edge, which is an SDK, much like how Cosmos works. So that's something that other blockchains may want to use, more permission blockchains. Nightfall, which is kind of zero knowledge and private transactions. Maiden, which is Stark based, and Zero, which is incredibly fast. You can see these are in development now. These are actually live, but also being developed. There are many other ZK networks though. You have Starknet and ZK Sync, which are all building out networks. Polygon really has such a massive developer base though. It really does take most of the energy in the space. You can see if you just go to Polygon Studios. So this is the part of Polygon that is not the infrastructure, but actually building out the applications. And if you just go to this Twitter, you'll just see post after post after post of new projects coming in, NFT projects, gaming projects, GameFi projects, other DeFi projects coming in. It's just literally endless, the amount of companies and projects that are building in Polygon Studios and therefore are going to use Polygon's ZK networks as well. I believe at some point in the future, this is going to be kind of an explosion when these ZK networks actually launch and can scale up. You're just going to see so many new use cases, and obviously a lot of value is going to come to the chains that obviously support all of these projects. Also, to show you how the blockchain industry is scaling, I want to come to Binance Smart Chain, which is obviously really one of the leading players when it comes to actually making applications that people use. It's great to talk about their technology, but if no one uses it, it's not really worth much, right? So what we're seeing now is the attempt to scale. People have obviously seen that gaming and also GameFi have a use case and people want to use that, and applications are going to be built. But the problem is you need very, very cheap transactions. Even though Binance is a copy of EVM and they've centralized the blockchain to make the transactions cheaper, even that at some point with enough transactions will meet a limit. And so they need to scale further. This is what Binance Chain are doing. And it's essentially a modified version of what Cosmos and also Polkadot are doing, with trying to be a central chain with many different sub networks. And actually, if you look at kind of how the industry is going right now, pretty much all of these ecosystems are doing a modification of the same thing. Binance, Avalanche, Polkadot, Cosmos, all trying to be at the center of more blockchains around the outside. And actually Ethereum is, basically doing the same thing as well, with, the modular type of blockchain that it's trying to build. But the technology behind it and the way that they do this is very different between those chains. And I still think Ethereum has the most value potential because of how decentralized the infrastructure is trying to be. So what you can see BNB Chain here are doing is trying to be in the center and then have other blockchains around the outside that feed back through to the main Binance chain. The reason being is that these external chains can basically be extremely centralized. Just think of basically a Web 2 game that is totally centralized, but obviously this will be interoperable with Binance chain, and therefore it will be blockchain based. But make no mistake, this is not decentralization. This is essentially spinning up a new blockchain for each application that you want to use. Now, Binance Chain are doing this. You can see Stellar Network. Stellar Network is going to be the cross-chain bridge from the Binance chain to these sovereign chains. And then Anchor is going to be the node framework, and you have Node Real here as well. So these three blockchain companies basically are building out scale by just allowing each new application to be its own separate sovereign blockchain. Cosmos does a similar thing. Polkadot does a similar thing. So this is really what chains are trying to do right here. You can see they call it the application sidechain, BIS. So this is a next-gen developer infrastructure that enables developers to build large-scale BSC-based applications with increased throughput and significantly reduced or even zero transaction fees. How is that possible? This is not decentralized in any way, shape, or form. So I just really want to be clear about that, is that Binance focuses on the end user and the applications that they want to use, and much less on trying to become some worldwide decentralized infrastructure. I think of Binance Chain as a real kind of a blockchain company rather than Ethereum, which is massive decentralized infrastructure. If you read through this, you can essentially see what they're saying right here. They were saying that BAS is typically used in the same way as the Ronin chain is for Axie Infinity. So I just want to come to this drawing that I did. I see a problem here. Ronin just got hacked for $500 million. So obviously there is a big security issue when you have a side chain from the main blockchain. Now, obviously they were basically very unsafe with Ronin and they got hacked, right? And could that happen on the Binance applications blockchains as well? Absolutely, it could. So there are absolutely security issues with what Binance are doing here. So, how that is going to work out in the future, we're not really sure, but it's not the same as scaling with ZK technologies, which inherit the main chain security. Binance, for their part, have actually said essentially what they want to do in the short term is what you can see here. Use Stellar as a bridge between BNB and the sovereign chain, and then use Anchor as infrastructure as well to make kind of side chains. But in the future, they do also want to create ZK rollups on top of Binance as well. So what you can see is that essentially these main chains, these main assets, BNB and ETH, are trying to be at the center, and then you're trying to build out second layers and side chains that will obviously create lower fees for certain applications. I believe that the only real way to do this is through ZK, because that inherits the security of the main chain. Side chains have inherent problems that we've seen. Ronin got hacked for 500 million. Wormhole got hacked for 300 million. So, cross-chain messaging and infrastructure has a pain point and can get hacked. ZK is the way, but what Binance do is really go application first and then worry about the infrastructure after that. So I still think there's a ton of value with Binance's version of doing things, because where there are applications, you can see there are users, and there are obviously opportunities to make money for those chains and for the coin itself. I can see that Binance and Polygon both are actually going for the same market here, which is gaming, GameFi, NFTs, and entertainment of blockchain infrastructure. Ethereum's very different for itself and is really trying to be total worldwide decentralized infrastructure. And so they obviously make up different percentages in my portfolio based on the potential TAM, or total addressable market, right? Ethereum has a much wider addressable market of being really the only decentralized crypto blockchain infrastructure for smart contracts for right now. There are obviously other competitors. I saw this as well, which I think proves kind of what I'm trying to make here, the point I'm trying to make. The goal is to drive value towards block space and collect revenue through that. What drives value towards block space? Security. Absolutely, which is why you see Ethereum so strong. It's decentralized and it has security and immutability, and that's why it has much more of that monetary premium, because that is important. And Binance can have a huge amount of users with gaming. It's just a different market, and they can all win, but I think they have different value propositions over the long term, which is what I look at. Looking at gaming, though, this is potentially hundreds of millions of users coming into the blockchain space. And so you need to scale. Scaling is important. Building out those side chains and application-specific blockchains to get the scale, and then progressively decentralized really is, for me, the way the industry is going. So just getting exposure to cryptos that are in that space definitely is the thing for me. If you want to know more about how I think about that, how I invest, how I put my portfolio together, if you want to see my portfolio and my trade alerts, that's all in the crypto course. So definitely check it out. I'll leave that linked in the description. I'm James with MoneyCG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.